What's up, guys? It's James from Lucrative MMA. I'm back to drop some more knowledge on you. And today it's Monday here where I am, New Zealand, probably Sunday for most of the world. And like always, what I do every Monday or Sunday after fight day, I come on here, jump on the YouTube live stream and go over every single bet I had on the previous UFC card. And I just also talk about the matchups from a stylistic perspective and from a betting perspective. You know, it's always from a betting perspective when I'm talking, because if you don't know me by now, I'm a professional sports bettor. I grew up around the sports betting industries of England, the greyhound racing industry as well. And over the last 6 years, I've been betting solely on MMA. I've bet on every sport for my entire life. But over the last 6 years, I've been betting only on MMA. And over the last 3 years, I've been able to help people make money from MMA betting with my handicapping service, Lucrative MMA. We're on a crazy run this year. Hopefully it continues. We've won over 63 units this year. Last year, we won 60 units. The year before that, we won 99 units. If you did want to sign up and make money long-term from sports betting on MMA, then you can sign up via the link in my bio or go to lucrativemmabetting.com to check out more about me. I'm third-party tracked, independently tracked on betmma.tips, so I cannot fake my record like most of the other scam decappers out there. If you have been scammed before, or if you're looking to sign up to someone and don't want to get scammed, I suggest you watch my video on my YouTube channel called 3 Ways to Tell If a Sports Betting Tipster Is Not to Be Trusted. Go and watch that video and, make your own mind up, because a lot of people messaged me after that video and commented on that video saying they have been scammed in the past, and it's something that is close to my heart. I wanted to help people not get scammed in the future, because there's a lot of scammers out there in this industry, probably one of the worst industries in the world for scamming, right? So definitely go and watch that video. But without further ado, we'll get straight into the card. And it was a good card, UFC 263. I enjoyed it. I think few people overblew it. I mean, I heard someone say that Chael Sonnen said it was one of the best cards in UFC history. Don't know if I go that far. Definitely the last 3 fights. The co-main event and the Nate Diaz-Edwards fight was obviously very exciting because of what happened in the last 1 minute of the Diaz-Edwards fight. And then obviously the co-main event was, he stole the show. Brandon Moreno. We had the people's main event, Riddell versus Dobar. But we'll get into all of that. We'll start from the bottom of the card. First fight of the night. We'll go all the way up to the last fight of the night, right? And the first fight of the night, Carlos Felipe versus Jake Collier, the prototype. So I'll just bring up my screen so you can see me. If you're just listening along on the podcast, you don't have to see me, so don't worry too much. This is just for the people tuning in live. And look, if you are in a chat, hit me up in the chat. We'll have a discussion. But what I'll do is I'll just go through the fight, and then I'll hit up the chat after, and then go through the next fight. Then hit up the chat in between the fights, right? So the first fight of the night, Carlos Felipe versus Jake Collier, right? This was a close decision. I had a bet on Carlos Felipe to win via decision at plus 150. I think that was a solid bet. We got plus money, 40% indication on an outcome, which probably would happen a lot of times. Most of the times these guys fight, they go to decision, against each other. If these guys fought 100 times, I reckon they go to decision. A lot of times it did look like Jake Collier was getting tired at the end of that third round, or even just in the whole third round, to be honest. That was a clear Felipe round. So I guess potentially sometimes they fight, Felipe could stop him a bit later on. Felipe has that forward pressure. So a lot of times it does get to people. It did look like it got to Jake Collier in that third round. But I reckon, if these guys fought 100 times, at least 80 times these guys go to decision. 2 big boys, but they go to decision. So to get plus 150 on that, it was a good bet. Anyone on Jake Collier at plus 200 or better, that's a solid bet. Even on Jake Collier at plus 150, the same price I got, plus 175, that's a good bet. Anyone who bet Carlos Felipe money line, don't like the bet, because you're laying chalk on a fight that was close. Just before I jumped on it, I've decided not to talk too much about the split decisions and stuff, because it's just boring. Anybody who had a Jake Collier bet was screaming robbery on Twitter on this bet, which is just absolutely crazy in my eyes with how close the second round was. First round, Jake. Third round, Felipe. You can't really argue. other than that, the second round was close. To call it a robbery, it's just, I don't really know. So I've decided not to really go too deep into if I think it's a robbery or not, because it's just negativity at the end of the day. Do you know what I mean? I want to focus on the positive, and I'll tell you exactly how I saw the fights. But at the end of the day, if you've got a bet on a fighter, you're going to be biased anyway. So I've got a bet on Carlos Felipe, so I'm going to be biased to Carlos Felipe in this, right? No matter how much you try and be honest, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be biased. Everyone who bet Jake Collier was calling this a robbery, so like, I'm not going to get into if I think it was a robbery, if I think it wasn't a robbery. I'll tell you my opinion, and then I'll move on. Because, sometimes I can see certain narratives and they piss me off, right? So I'll rant about them narratives, right? Not just robberies, but narratives in general. One narrative I see all the time, right, is, I'm just going a little bit off topic here, is that people always say, if this fight didn't happen, what line would we be getting him at, right? So, you might say, oh, if Jake Collier didn't beat Gian Vellante, maybe he would have been a plus 300 underdog, right? So just because he beat Vellante, now we're getting him at a worse price. But that fight did happen, right? Those fights did happen. And a lot of times they affect the line for good reason. Sometimes they don't, right? Sometimes the way they affect lines is stupid. If it's like a close decision or if it's like an early knockout, they affect lines which probably the line shouldn't be affected. But there's certain narratives, right? And I'll go off on them. And one of the narratives, I just hate when people call robberies on fights that are like very close and could go either way. But I've decided to not go too deep into that on this stream, but I kind of already have. So let me get off that. Anyway, it was a good fight between these guys, right? They put it all on the line. I thought Carlos Felipe done well. And if you are a member and you watch the bet and breakdown, which I put out on the website every single week, where basically I just break down all of the bets that we have on the card, I said, and for all my members who didn't watch the bet and breakdown, you can go on the bet and tips page now. I haven't taken it off yet. You can watch it. I said that Carlos Felipe has a way of swaying the judges, and you have to cap that in just a little bit, right? Like, so if it's a close fight, Carlos Felipe's body language, his movement, the way he always forward pressures, which is criteria in scoring. If it's a close fight, if the damage is the same, they go on who's pressured, who's taken the center of the octagon. That is a scoring criteria. He always takes the center of the octagon, always pushing forward, always like pointing in the face. Nate Diaz throwing big shots. So this affects judging, right? On one side, it's good that it affects judging. It should, because it's the forward momentum. It's taking the center of the octagon, which is in the scoring criteria, right? If everything else is level. Then on the other side, the antics, the pointing and stuff, that obviously shouldn't affect it. At the end of the day, you have to factor it in slightly, especially if you think the fight's going to be close. So, you have to be looking at things on a macro level when you're betting on MMA. There's lots of intricacies that go into it. This is one of them. Carlos Felipe's actions when he's in the cage, right? This is one of them. And I capped it in and I profited from it, right? So a lot of people won't talk about this side of the game, but it's an important thing that needs to be said if you do want to make money betting on MMA. There's optics. Optics is a real thing. It just means how the judges perceive the fights. So you need to understand how your fighter makes the judge perceive the fight, basically, right? I said that the same thing, the optics in the Hooper and who was it? Hooper and Steven Peterson fight, right? I thought that they both got solid chins, Hooper and Peterson. I know Hooper's got a good chin, but Hooper, because he's like, I don't know why, right? It might be because he's tall, lanky, a little bit weak in the strength. His head snaps back a lot when he gets punched, right? And it happened in the Peterson fight a lot of times. So I said in that fight that optically, even if Peterson and Hooper are landing the same, I think optically it's going to look better for Peterson because Chase Hooper's head's going to be snapping back. What did we see? Early in that first round, Chase Hooper head snaps back. That first round was close. One judge gave that first round to Chase Hooper. But I believe that Chase Hooper's head snapping back 2 or 3 times helped sway the judges to score it to Peterson. So that's something that's not talked about often. Optics is an important thing you have to look at. But yeah, shout out to both of these guys. They put on a good show for us, and it was a good way to start off the card. I know the crowd were booing, which is just absolutely ridiculous. You know, the crowd, they made a chant, "This is boring, this is boring." I just, you know, at first I was happy the crowds are back, but now I don't know whether I'm that happy. But, you know, we get best of both worlds because we're in the apex for the fight nights, and then we're in the, you know, with the crowds for the main events. Anyway, the next fight was Fares Ziam versus Luigi Vendramani. I didn't have any bets on this like I did the last fight. It was good to start the card off with a win, especially a plus money win. I was, you know, targeting a couple of bets pre-tape, Vendramani via submission, something like this. But, you know, when I watched tape, I just wasn't very confident on it. So I passed on the fight, you know, and I wasn't really, I was pretty happy I passed on the fight. I mean, I guess the best bet on this fight was Fares Ziam to win, but one judge did score it a draw. It was a majority decision, so I was kind of happy I passed on the fight because it did show that Vendramani could trouble for us if he had, you know, pressured him, which he did in the third round, and, you know, he was almost able to stop him. So actually happy that I passed on this. You know, sometimes the best bet is pass, right? So I think this was a good spot for me to pass. Yeah, not much too much to say about this. I guess Vendramani should have pressured a bit more because when he did in that third round, it looked like he hurt him. But for us, you know, he didn't do much in the first 2 rounds, but he clearly won them. Just jabbed his face off, nothing else. Very long guy for the division. 6'1" in the lightweight division is pretty solid. Not as good as the next fight, featherweight division, 6'1". But yeah, I mean, for us, 24 years old, going to be making improvements. Not bad. I've got my breakfast shake here, so I'm going to be drinking that throughout the stream. If you're wondering what is this sludge I'm drinking, got some banana in there, protein powder, peanut butter. See, in New Zealand, it's winter right now, right? So it's like, it's what you call bulking season. So I'm trying to put on a little bit of weight. I'm at about 87 kilo right now. Maybe I try to go up to about 93, 94. You know, not too much, but then maybe cut back to like 91 or something in the summer, just in time for the beach. You know, this is not a fitness podcast though, so let me just get back to the fights. Anyway, yeah, shout out to anyone who cashed on Ziam, I guess, but yeah, at a favorite price, nothing great about that bet. The next fight, Stephen Peterson versus Chase Hooper. I'll just catch up with the chat real quickly. Shout out to BP. Thank you for watching. Well done on your hard work. I appreciate that, bro. Trying. Lots of work last week talking about hard work because there was 3 events: PFL, Bellator, and UFC. Right? PFL, we cashed 1.5 units. Bellator actually passed. I done all the tape for it, but I didn't really like any bets. I didn't really like any value spots. I didn't see much edge I had on the line. And as you know, if you want to make money from sports betting long term, you don't pick winners at all, right? You will pick winners, but you don't aim to pick winners. You try and find value on the line, like I've done in a lot of fights on this card, and I'll tell you about them later. In this fight as well. And if you get value on the line long term, you will win money. So I actually passed on Bellator because I didn't think I had any value. And then obviously we won 8.3 units on the UFC. So that's 3 cards to tape. It's about 40 to 50 fights there. It was an intense week, man. But, you know, we got it done and we won and we profited because of it. So, yeah, happy about that. Oscar is saying he had Leon closing big parlays, was rolling with the punches till that last minute. Yeah, he did not roll with the punches. You was rolling with the punches. Yeah, he didn't roll with the punches in that last minute. You know, he got a little bit stung throughout that fight. Like every time Diaz would land, which was very rarely, it looked like, all right, you know, it kind of woke him up a little bit. Like you could tell Diaz was landing with decent power. It's not to the naked eye, but like, because I watch fights every single day of my life with no break, all day mostly, I can kind of see things that potentially some people can't see. And you could tell that Diaz was landing with power and Leon Edwards was like, all right, this guy, you know, he's got a little bit of power, but it was very rare until the last round. He really caught him there. So, you know, I had Leon Edwards via decision and I was like, no way. We're not going to cash because of this last 30 seconds. But, you know, Diaz, terrible fight IQ. You know, he didn't stop him. Felipe and the over 2.5. You did that. Well done. Collier blew his wad in the first half of the first round. Yeah, I mean, he definitely slowed down after that first round. And Felipe doesn't slow down. Felipe actually gets stronger, you know. So shout out to Felipe for cashing us that ticket. Didn't know you were from NZ. TAB needed an MMA UFC guy. Would you take that on? Congrats on your success. It depends what they're paying me, because right now I'm my own boss. I'm happy with everything I've got going, making a lot of money from sports betting, and I'm helping make people money as well, you know, which is a very satisfying feeling. You know, if we have a losing week, it's not great, but long term, most of the people understand it's a long-term game, and it's fulfilling, you know, to help people earn money, basically. And I get messages of support and stuff, and it makes me feel good, because I'm not only helping them make money, also helping them have fun watching a fight. So it's a different experience. So that's rewarding. It's a lot of pressure as well. So I don't think I want that pressure my whole life, because if I lose, then we all lose, and it's very it doesn't feel good, right? But at the moment, it's rewarding. I don't know if I take that, to be honest. It completely depends, right? Like I definitely wouldn't, you know, maybe if they wanted me for like a day a week or something, I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, are you offering Brick Brose? If you're offering a job, hit my DMs, bro. Okay, BP cashed on ZM. Well done, well done. All right, Stephen Peterson versus Chase Hooper, right? He won 3-round decision. Did we have any bets on this fight? Yes, we had Stephen Peterson to win. I bet him at -140. I bet 1.4 units on him at -140. I thought that was a good line. The guy went to underdog. When he hit plus money, +100, I put more money on him. I put another unit on him to win one. So we actually had 2.4 units on Stephen Peterson, making it like the second or third biggest bet on the card for us. I was that confident in him to make him the second or third biggest bet on the card. But at the same time, I botched the line on this, right? So 90 to 95% of the time, we beat the closing line, right? About 5 to 10% of the time, probably closer to 5%, we don't beat the closing line. I misread line movement, right? And I misread this one. I thought there'd be money coming in on Stephen Peterson, because I thought people would be seeing what I saw, which was Chase Hooper's not very good, you know, and Stephen Peterson is a bit better almost everywhere. But obviously not. Chase Hooper, I guess the hype was real with Chase Hooper, even after he lost against Alex Caceres, and then even after he got beat up for 3 rounds against Barrett and pulled out a Hail Mary submission. I guess that kept the hype alive. And, you know, hype is one thing that you can cash on in MMA, right? It's drastic. Like, we almost cashed on Clarissa Shields' opponent, Brittany Elkin, at +265 last week in the PFL. You know, she dominated her for like, I don't know, 13 minutes and then got stopped because she's just a low-level fighter, right? She got positionally TKO'd. But that was a good example of how you can cash on hype, right? A better example, one we actually did cash on hype, was we bet Hannah Guy at +425, money line, +425 against Valerie Laruda, right? Valerie Laruda is that pretty girl that you probably see, nice body. She posts a lot of pictures on Instagram and stuff in a bikini. She fights for Bellator. She's a Taekwondo girl, but she's not the best at MMA, right? She's still young. She's like 21, 22 years old, something like that. And she was fighting a grappler, and we bet on her opponent. +425 we got, you know. Valerie was like -600 or something. The only reason the line was like that, it was nothing to do with the skill set, because if you watch tape, you're like, this is a close fight. I mean, if the fight gets to the ground, Hannah's got a chance, right? If you watch tape, you will understand that that line was just absolutely ridiculous. But the reason we got that line was because of hype, right? It's just that one word, right? Hype. I have a video on that. If you go back on my YouTube channel, I don't know what it's titled. It's like Fade the Hype or How to Make Money from MMA Betting, something like that. You know, I don't have too many videos on my channel, so you can find it. I just basically talk about how fading the hype is potentially the best angle in MMA betting to make money long term, right? There's arguments with that. There is a lot of different angles, but that is probably one of the best angles. And what I'm trying to say is, I guess that was the angle we took here, right? We faded the hype because, in my opinion, Steven Peterson should be damn near minus 175, right? I do give some credence to Chase in this fight. You know, he did have Steven in some bad positions, but Steven was responsible defensively. And, you know, he was able to win 30-27, a clear win for him. One judge gave Chase the first round. Don't agree. Don't really understand. Can see why. Don't really understand it, though. So, yeah, shout out to anyone who cashed on Steven Peterson. This was an easy bet. If you bet Chase Hooper, you need to really look at your process. You need to really look at how you're betting on fights and why you're betting on fights. You need to look at the way you bet on fights, right? Because if you bet Chase Hooper as a favorite, you know, I won't say this about a lot because you can have bad reads on fights, right? It can happen, right? Like, it's easy. I've had terrible bets before. So I never really say, if you've had, you know, if you do one bad bet, then you should reevaluate your process because it doesn't make sense, right? Because everyone has bad bets and bets they're embarrassed on. But I don't know, man. As a favorite, Chase Hooper, like in this spot, from what we've seen of him in the UFC against Caceres and Stephen Barrett, it's like, it's very hard for me to see any way you could bet him. If you want to pass on a fight, fair enough, because I did think there would be a chance for Chase to lock something up. But, you know, to actually bet on Chase Hooper, just make sure you're just reevaluating. You know, I'm not saying stop betting, but just reevaluate your process. Think about why you did that and, you know, potentially learn from that mistake. All right, the next fight on the card, what was this one? Matt Fravola versus Terence McKee. So I went to the toilet for this fight and I came back and I see Terence McKee holding his knee. And I was like, oh, damn, McKinney's injured his knee within the first 10 seconds. And then I see Matt Fravola on the floor and I'm like, all right, so what's going on here now? And then I saw the replay and that was a bit mad, right? So McKee knocks the dude out 7 seconds. 4th fastest knockout in UFC history on his debut. Just fought like 2 weeks ago, whenever it was. And then he jumps off the cage, celebrates on the cage, and Johnny Walkers himself, you know, injures his knee, blew his knee out. Don't know what he did to it, but hopefully he's fine now. Yeah, not much to say about that. It's a bit of a crazy situation, right? 7-second knockout, and then you get knocked out by the cage, you know? It's like double knockouts. Anyway, yeah, shout out to Terence, man. I don't really know too much about the dude. I know he was in the LFA before, won a good fight, and then obviously got called to the UFC on short notice because Camacho got pulled from the fight, or he tested positive for COVID, or he got injured, or I'm just rattling off things that could have happened. I have no idea why he got pulled from the fight. I've got a bad memory. I don't remember. But yeah, shout out to Terence, man. I don't know much about him, as I said, but I've heard that he's got a good backstory, you know, so it's always good for me to hear like rags to riches stories. If you've come from a hard place, you know, it's I like hearing them stories because they're inspiring, you know. They do inspire people. So anyway, next fight, because I mean, it was 7 seconds. We don't have too much to speak about, right? We know Fravola is, you know, it's funny because I didn't have no bets on this fight, but I was going to bet the under 2.5, right? And I mean, I guess I should have done that, but it was such a late notice fight and I didn't want to go through that too much tape at that time. Like I was already taping next week's card. A lot of times when there's like a late notice fight, like a day or two out from fight day, I don't end up doing the research I want to have a bet on the fight because I'm already doing other things, you know, like I might be making content for the website, or I might be looking at another card in the future, multiple cards in the future. So yeah, I might have to do better at that. If there's like a late notice fight, then I need to do better at researching that fight in full, because there's obviously money to be made in every fight, like I always say. Speaking about money to be made in every fight, we made a lot of money in this fight. 3.3 units on Pani Kianzad via decision, minus 110 to defeat Alexis Davis via decision. She did. defeat Alexis Davis decision. This was another fight where the comments on Twitter were hilarious in the fact that people were saying it was a robbery. Davis clearly won the fight. I mean, and then using the stats to justify it, like using the strike stats, like who landed more strikes. Yeah, Davis landed more strikes, but it's not a volume contest. This is MMA. It's not MMA volume. Obviously, it's one factor in the scoring, but in fact, the main factor is damage. Okay, Pani did a lot more damage to Davis. She snapped her head back 15, 20 times in that fight. Optically, like I spoke about earlier, that looks a lot better. She landed the much harder shots. Alexis Davis landed about 2 or 3 shots where you was like, oh, that was hard. Pani landed about 15 or 20 where you was like, damn, that was hard. I had a ticket on Pani, so my comments don't really mean anything. But I thought Pani won this fight 2-1. And I even thought the fight, the round that Davis won, which was, I think, round 1, it was close. I think she only won it because of the takedown at the end, right? So, yeah, I mean, I was happy. When I went to decision, I thought we would get the decision. But, it is what it is. Everybody screaming robbery. They all had a bet on Davis. So, I mean, how much can you take from it? How much can you take from me saying Pani won when I had a bet on Pani? Not much, man. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Davis backers. Just go and watch the fight for yourself with no commentary. That's another thing I want to talk about. Watch the fight with no commentary and make your decision. Unless you had a bet on Pani or Alexis Davis, then, in my opinion, you don't have an opinion, because everyone who seems to have an opinion, they just always think their fighter won. It's like never the other way, unless it's clear. Anyway, the commentary are absolutely pathetic these days as well, man. They're becoming unbearable. So I did a tweet which captures it pretty well. I said, what was it? I said, the commentary decide on one aspect of the fight they like, and then whatever fighter is doing that aspect, they're biased on all other aspects of the fight to that fighter. I hope that makes sense. I don't want to repeat it because that was long. But basically, if one fighter is doing something well, they'll just get gassed on everything else that fighter's doing, unless it's clearly getting dominated the other way, right? So, like, they were so high on Alexis Davis leg kicks, right? They loved the leg kicks. Joe Rogan, like, these leg kicks are amazing. And then anything else Davis did, they loved, because they loved the leg kicks. Like, and they kind of disregarded Pani's thing. It's so funny how they do that. Like, they get their narrative, right? And then they just basically goes balls to the wall on that narrative, and like other things that fighter does because of that one narrative. It's a shame, because I always, when people have been saying this for years about Joe Rogan, right? I always, for at least 2-3 years now, people have been slating on Joe Rogan, like, he's becoming unbearable to listen to. And I like Joe Rogan. I'm a Joe Rogan fan. I listen to the Joe Rogan Experience. He has amazing guests on, not just MMAs. MMA shows are real good. I like listening to Fight Talk for 2-3 hours, But then also I love his, guests. Matthew Walker. He's had lots of like health specialists on. I'm into my health, sports, fitness. Just in general, things about the body, diet, everything. So I really like Joe Rogan. So I guess for a while I was in denial. I was like, nah, Joe's good, man. He brings good energy. And I still think he does bring something a bit unique to it, like that no one else could do. But I have to admit, man, over the last like few months or the last few weeks, not even few months, like the last like 4 or 5 events, I've been noticing, not 4 or 5, but like 4 or 5 that Joe's been in, right? Like the pay-per-views. I've been noticing that Joe is like a bit mad these days, man. Like he's lost his mind a little bit. Like the dude is a bit, like even in the Jamal Hill versus Craig fight, he's like, Craig, this is a striker versus grappler matchup, but not really, because Jamal Hill is still really good on the ground. And I'm like, Joe, like what, please, Joe, like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, okay, maybe, but maybe not. I mean, how do you know Jamal Hill's good on the ground? When have we seen him on the ground? We've seen him get up from bottom against Stosic. Yeah, we've also seen him get taken down. I mean, how can you say he's good on the ground? Paul Craig, when he got him on the ground, it was game over. There was like levels apart. But through the whole card, like he was spouting some madness, to be honest. Anyway, I guess I'm just saying all that to say that, you know, the commentary can really sway you. So, yeah, that's all I wanted to say. I guess the commentary will sway you. I was happy to cash this bet, minus 110. I think it was a great bet at minus 110. I mean, anyone who bet Panny money line, it's not a good bet. So that's the thing. Anyone who bet Alexis Davis, it's actually a good bet, right? Because it was a close fight and it was plus 185. But we didn't bet Panny money line, right? That's not good. Panny via decision, minus 110. That's the best bet in this fight, in my opinion, because I feel like Panny won it 2-1. I feel clear she won it clear, as I said. But then I also feel that most of the time these girls fight, she edges out a decision. But we'll never know because they'll probably never fight again. So I'll move on to the next bet. But, you know, we turned the minus 250 into a minus 110. And I was happy to cash on that one. That was also the free bet I gave out on my Telegram channel. If any of you haven't joined my Telegram channel, join it. It's not hard to find. Just go back through my Twitter. I post it quite often on there. Otherwise, if you've got Telegram, you can probably search Lucrative MMA Betting. Go to my website on the free tips page. I have my Telegram channel there. On my homepage, on the bottom of the website, I have my Telegram channel link there. So join the Telegram channel. I gave out a free bet, which cashed yesterday, day before, and potentially we'll give out free bets in the future. I don't know about that. Probably not that many, but there will be some. So if you don't want to miss out, jump on it. And then also I give out a lot of I'll give out leans. I'll give out lines that I think's inaccurate. Then I'll also give out like sports betting advice in general, and you can keep up to date on like what I'm doing basically. So anyway, join that. And if you would have joined it, you would have cashed. Anyone who cashed, congrats. If you did cash, let me know in the chat. Tell me how much you won, because always good to hear them stories. So the next fight was Hakeem Dawodu versus Movsar Evloev. Domination, wasn't this? Domination. Movsar Evloev just ragdolls Hakeem. I know a lot of people are high on Hakeem. I actually bet Evloev in this fight. But I bet him via decision. Again, I turned the minus 225 into like minus 110. I put 1.1 units on him at minus 110 to win 1 unit. And then when money came in on Dawodu, the day of the fight, I actually put another unit on Evloev via decision at plus 100. So when it turned to plus money, just like my bet on Peterson, I added to it. And obviously that cashed. So I was glad I added to it there. I understand. This is the thing. It's hard for me to articulate these things, but they're important to say. Like, I understood the money coming in on Dawodu, right? But I felt like people need to look into the fight a bit deeper. So if you bet Dawodu, I really do understand it, right? Because 85% takedown defense, always look to have very solid takedown defense. Obviously, he's a better striker than Movsar. If he was just able to like stop the takedowns, he probably could win a decision here or even knock Movsar out. But if you look into it a bit more deeper, he's never fought anyone of the wrestling of Movsar Evloev, right? The way Movsar chains takedowns together and his grip is so strong that 85% takedown defense doesn't really mean anything when you're fighting fighters on the level of Movsar Evloev with the wrestling. Any members, go on the website, watch the betting breakdown for this fight, and I talk about this. Exactly what I'm saying now, I said this pre-fight, right? I said that when you're fighting a fighter like Evloev and Khabib, and I'm not comparing them, but I am comparing the style of the chain wrestling at a high level, okay? When you're fighting these fighters, your takedown defense doesn't really come into play. You need to watch how they defend takedowns and if they've defended multiple takedowns in the past from top fighters. Then you need to check out who they're training with. Like, are they training with Chimaev every single day? You know, are they training with Khabib? If not, then they're not likely going to be able to defend the takedowns. And I just didn't think he'd be able to defend the takedowns. And he actually got dominated more than I thought. I thought that Evloev, would have to chain wrestle, but he didn't really. I mean, sort of. He definitely did chain wrestle, but it wasn't like continuous because once he got him to the ground, he just couldn't get up. Evloev sunk in the choke a couple of times, but it was kind of more just to. He never had it locked in at all. He had it around the face, but he never had it under the chin. And Dawadu's not going to tap to a face choke. He's a tough motherfucker. So yeah, we cashed a lot of money on this, like 2 units altogether. Evloev via decision. Yeah, man. Again, happy with the bet. Would make it 10 times out of 10. Minus 110. Plus money on that bet was a gift, in my opinion. Yeah, not much to say about this. Evloev is a real solid prospect. It's going to take a lot to beat that guy just because of how good the wrestling is. I've cashed on Evloev in so many damn fights now. It's ridiculous. My members have cashed too. We have cashed on Evloev in so many fights. I'm just going to go back through his record and see like who we've cashed on because I think we've bet on him in like all his UFC fights, right? So I don't think we bet on his debut. I did bet on his, I remember betting on him against Enrique Barzola, but that was in October 2019. So I'm not 100% sure if I had my handicapping service at that point. I think I just made it. I think I did have it. I think we did bet on Barzola. I definitely bet against Barzola, sorry, but I think I tipped it to my members. I think I had the Lucrative MMA at that point. I think that was like 2 or 3 weeks into me creating it on Bet MMA and actually creating my website and stuff like that. So yeah, I think we cashed on that. We definitely cashed on him against Grundy, and we definitely cashed on him against Lentz. I think we had him via decision there, and we obviously had him. I think we cashed on him via decision against Grundy, Lentz, and Dawadu. I think we had his decision prop in all of them fights. So yeah, I've got a good read on Evloev. And obviously, if I'm betting on him in all his fights, you can tell I'm high on the guy, right? So when you get these fighters that are just high level, you need to fucking cash in because you just need to cash in when they're fighting these lower level guys. Nick Lentz, at this point in his career, Grundy, Barzola, at this point in his career, are lower level guys. Even Dawadu is a lower level guy when you're comparing him to Evloev. Evloev's got a top 5, fringe top 5, top 10 fighters. Top 5 fighters, in my opinion, really, for him, for me to actually consider betting against him. So you got to ride these money trains when they're there, man. There's a lot of fighters like Beneil Dariush. I've cashed on that dude in like 5 of his last 5 fights. I've bet on him against everyone, man. I put 7.5 units on him against Tony Ferguson. I got him as an underdog against Carlos Diego Ferreira when everyone was on Ferreira. I don't know how he was an underdog there. I was so surprised. Clearly won that fight, dominated almost 30-27. It was a split decision, which is sickening. But what else? I've bet on Beneil Dariush against Scott Holtzman. We bet on him at minus 175 or something. Absolute value. Bet on him against a couple of other fighters as well. When you get these fighters who you've got a good read on, because every sports bettor has a read. So every MMA bettor has a good read on specific fighters, right? I really know Beneil Dariush's game. I'm really good at predicting Beneil's fights. I know Evloev's game, right? I'm good at predicting Evloev's fights. There's fighters that you're not so good at predicting their fights. Like for me, it was Chaos Williams, right? I've lost on Chaos Williams a couple of times. I did win on last time. I bet against him via decision. We finally got some money back. But, a good thing to do is to find out who you are good at winning money on and then betting on or against them because their style. So you should be able to know who will beat them and who will lose to them. Getting them fighters and kind of trying to make money on them more than just betting every single fight on the card that you don't really have a great read on, right? So that's something to, hopefully will help you in your betting process. The next fight, Lauren Murphy versus Joanne Calderwood. Yeah, I wasn't super glued to the TV on this one. I noticed, I was excited for this fight, but tell you the truth, at the moment, I can't live bet. So I'm not always glued to the fight. I mean, I always am, but I was cooking at this time. All right, I was cooking myself some lunch or some dinner or whatever. So I can't comment too much on who I thought won. I know it was another split decision. I guess everybody with Lauren Murphy tickets is going to be saying Lauren Murphy easily won, and then I guess everyone with Joanne Calderwood tickets going to say Joanne Calderwood won, right? I mean, that's just how it happens, man. So I'm kind of just learning to understand that people are just always going to be biased for their bets, right? It's just human nature. It is what it is. You can't do anything about it, right? At one point, I'll argue with these people, or I'll ask them, "What are you talking about?" And I guess maybe still sometimes I will, but it's just human nature, man. It's no one's doing it out of malice or anything. It's just human nature, Anyway, Joanne, I do it too. I'm not better than it. I do it too, right? So anyway, Joanne Calderwood, split decision. Murphy done well with her grappling. I didn't see all the fight, but I saw she was dominating with her grappling in one round. I believe that was round 2. Some people are saying that should have been scored a 10-8. I don't know if that should have been scored a 10-8 because I wasn't watching too much. But yeah, shout out to Lauren Murphy. Her nickname's Lucky, and she is kind of lucky, because she wins a lot of split decisions. She won one against my girl Andrea Lee. We lost on that. We had a bet on Andrea Lee. That was very, 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 very bad decision. But what did I just say? I had a bet on Andrea Lee. But this one is kind of like solidified in everyone's mind that Andrea Lee definitely won that fight. I think like every media member scored it for Andrea Lee. That is like one of the, notable robberies, like that's kind of established. So I'm allowed to say that. You can listen to my opinion on that one. But it's not really my opinion, it's everyone else's as well. But yeah, she wins a lot of split decisions, so I guess that's a good nickname. So I guess, maybe Darren Stewart should change his nickname to Lucky. Maybe he would have won the next fight, but probably not, because it was a clear third round for Eric Anders. He won the fight 3-1. Darren Stewart looked a little bit scared in this fight, scared of Anders' power. I'm not saying scared as in like he's, scared in that sense, scared as a bad connotation, but scared, I mean, just, worried about his power. And obviously he would be, right? Because he got knocked out almost in their last fight. So you would be a little bit worried. Eric Anders kept shooting for the takedown. It seemed like he maybe should have just swung, but obviously he don't want to get clipped by Darren either. So it's easier said than done when you're in there. And then obviously when he went for the takedown in the third round, when he got the takedown, when he got on top, he was completely dominant. So, maybe it wasn't a bad decision there because he still won the fight and he didn't really put himself in any danger. But it did look like he probably could crack Darren because he had Darren up against the cage a lot of the times. And, Eric seemed like he might be able to knock him out. But he still won the fight. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter. He probably took the better... He took the path of least resistance, kind of. It was still a decent amount of resistance from Darren. But, I mean, he won the fight. So that's all that matters, doesn't it? So, yeah, shout out to Eric Anders, your boy. He gets the 3-round decision. He puts that no contest right where he was almost... Well, he was on his way to winning it, and then he kneed Darren Stewart in the head, which was a bit dumb. And then he obviously no contest, and they had the rematch. Yeah, man, shout out to both guys. It was kind of a boring fight. I guess that was because it was a lot of clinching up against the cage by Eric. But, they both got in there, especially Darren Stewart after almost getting knocked out. He gets back in there a few weeks later. So shout out to Darren. He's a London boy as well, so always gonna support the people who came from the same place as me. It sounds a little bit stupid sometimes, right? Like just because the guy's from where you are, you support them. But man, it is what it is, isn't it? I support my English people, and I guess, I don't hate anyone for supporting their people. I live in New Zealand now. I respect the New Zealand culture, and I support all the Kiwis as well. I say I support all the Kiwis, but I bet against the Kiwi in the next fight. And obviously, the karma gods of New Zealand kind of slapped me in the face for that one because we lost the bet. We lost our first bet of the night. I've been telling you about all of these bets we've won. This is the first bet of the night we lost. I had 2 units on Drew Dober at -125. Which didn't cash. Obviously, Brad Riddell came through in that third round, had a massive last minute of that third round. And I just realized I'm kind of skipping the chat for a while. You probably see me looking like, what's this guy thinking? So let me just go back quickly to anyone who's in the chat. Mackenzie, Sonia, thank you for being here. I don't think I've seen you in the chat, so appreciate you chiming in. Why don't you make predictions? I could have used your thoughts. Yeah, sorry, man. I was going to make a UFC 263 prediction video. So first of all, I don't make a lot of prediction videos because obviously I save all of that for my members, right? I give my members my bets, all my official plays and stuff. But every now and then I will make prediction videos. I have my podcast every single week. So sign up to my podcast, subscribe on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, whatever. I also put it on YouTube. It's called the Lucrative MMA Betting Podcast. And I'll give out like my betting thoughts on 3 fights. The most exciting fight on the card, the most inaccurate betting line on the card, and then the main event. So I give that out every week, but very rarely. Sometimes I do prediction videos, but not usually. It just takes up a lot of time, and I'd rather spend that time on looking for other bets for future fights that I give out to my members. But yeah, sorry about that. This week I just didn't have time. It's just really about time because I taped all of PFL, like I said, which was like 10, 15 fights. Then I taped all of Bellator, which is like 10 fights. And then I taped all of UFC, which is like 10, 15 fights. So I just didn't have the time. I didn't even put out my podcast this week, which I'm very disappointed about because I put that out every single week now. So it was annoying for me to miss a week, but it is what it is. I had to, the number one focus is earning money and earning money for my members. So that always trumps everything. But I will try in the future. Make more predictions. Don't give out your plays for free, but give people your thoughts on each fight. Yeah, I know that. That's what I was going to do. But as I just told you the reasons why. Calderwood got round 1 and 3. Right. I got a Murphy ticket. Okay, well, you're different than a lot of people. Mackenzie Sonia saying, I should have 500K subs. You really are the best at this stuff. You're the best kept secret. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Seriously. I've only just started my, content on YouTube not too long ago, man. So I'm sure we'll get there. Maybe not 500K. Maybe though. We'll see. MMA is getting massive, right? So we're going to go for it. But I appreciate the kind words, bro. I do appreciate that. Mo Lester saying Figgy Moreno. Mo Lester. Did you just make me say that? Good man, good man. Figgy versus Moreno. Figgy versus Moreno was rigged. Bro, what are you talking about, man? First you made me laugh. Now you're making me click off your thing. Figgy Moreno was rigged. You lost your damn mind, boy. All right. Mackenzie Sonia, I need a team. I know. I do. It's a one-man band over here, It's hard. I got to do all this content and the betting stuff. The betting stuff is number one. All of this content stuff, you see me in front of the camera now. This is second, This is second. So it feels like there's not enough hours in a day sometimes, but it is what it is. What can I say? Can't complain. Love what I do. Yeah, so this fight, I had the 2-unit bet on the -125 Drew Dober. I don't really hate the bet. -125, so what's that? Like a 52% indication. He probably looked like a 45% indication, so it's not that much that I was wrong, in my opinion. The fight was close as fuck. Brad Riddell almost got stopped in the first round, right? Now, when I say almost stopped, we don't really know. He was badly hurt because he just shot for the takedown. He just clinged onto Dober's legs. And Brad Riddell's got some strength to be able to hold on to Dober's legs even when he was buzzed. So, the fight could have gone either way up until the last minute, even after that knockdown, right? Drew knocked him down, hurt him badly. And then, obviously, Brad Riddell came back in the second round, but it was still a very close round. And then the last round, it was close up until Brad started pulling away. Seemed like he had a bit better cardio. He was also landing more on Drew Dober, which took Drew Dober's cardio away a bit, maybe. And then also Drew Dober's chin was just crazy in this fight. That's another thing to talk about. You could tell Drew Dober definitely had the better chin in this fight, but it didn't matter because he wasn't landing as much as Brad Riddell. And Brad Riddell clearly won that fight, but it was a very close fight up until the last minute of that fight. So that's why I don't hate the bet. Not a good bet, but definitely not a terrible bet. So, yeah, man, shout out to Brad Riddell. He's a Kiwi. I like Brad. I met Brad before, only for about a minute. I went to some some like pop-up store about 20 minutes from me where they were like selling t-shirts. I met Israel Adesanya. I took a picture with the champ. He's a good guy. I had a little chat with him, and I met Brad and Cara France as well. Good people, very respectful, and yeah, shout out to Brad, man. I like his fighting style. I just thought Doba's chin could help him in this fight, which it did. I thought it'd help him more than it did. And then I also, did rate Drew Doba's level of competition and stuff. But that didn't really translate in this fight, right? Because it was just a kickboxing fight. And I was actually impressed with Brad Riddell. He's able to get up from bottom and then swat and then get up from bottom and then reverse position, which I was quite shocked by in a way. So shout out to Brad, man. He's in the top 15 now, Interesting career for the boy. All right. Paul Craig, Jamal, even though I spelled Jamal. Hill. So this was my worst bet. I had Jamal Hill inside the distance at minus 125. That was a shit bet because, it's one of them ones where if Jamal Hill doesn't get subbed, he does knock him out. So I'm not going to go this was such a bad bet. This is why it was bad, because I didn't hedge with Craig's sub. And it's so funny that Craig actually didn't get a sub. It was a TKO. So I would have lost that bet as well. But it doesn't matter because it's all about the read, right? So even if you bet Craig's sub, that was a good read, okay? So well done on that. Doesn't matter whether you won or lost. It was still a good bet. I didn't. So, I just stuck with Jamal Hill inside the distance play. But it was obvious, right, that Paul Craig, and I knew that as well. I was like, if this fight gets to the ground, Paul Craig definitely can submit him. And even with that move he done, he was doing that to Kennedy and Chuku a lot of times. When he holds the arm through his own arm, and he's just got that solid grip on it. So, I even knew that specific move could work on Jamal Hill because he was undefeated, and so was Kennedy. So it's dumb that I didn't bet Craig by sub. Yeah, I just thought that Jamal would be able to keep it standing, but Craig pulled guard. But I will say one thing is that Jamal Hill was terrible because his fight IQ, because he actually escaped the guard and then he went back in the guard. So fights are very binary a lot of times. It's if Jamal Hill's not on the ground with Paul Craig, it's 90% that he knocks him out, right? But it doesn't seem that way because we watched the fight for 2 minutes and he got his arm broke, right? So it's Craig, should have been minus 500 in that spot. No. You need to look for fights over 100 times. Now, let me tell you something now. If that fight happens 100 times, Craig subs him a lot of times, right? But it doesn't warrant him being minus 400 because he doesn't do it 80% of the time. Maybe he does. Who knows? We'll never know, right? But anyway, Craig by sub was a good bet. Stupid that I didn't hedge with that. But it's funny because if I would have hedged, I would have lost more money. But anyway, that was it. That was my second loss of the night. And my only... I had another loss later on. It was a flyer half a unit shot. And I'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, man, it was a good move fight by Paul Craig. Not shocked at all. I mean, that was always live. Shout out to anyone on Craig via submission. And it's funny because they said that he didn't actually break his arm. He only dislocated it. I mean, that looked like a break to me. And apparently Craig's fine now. Jamal's fine now. But I don't know if he's fine because I saw him with a sling on and stuff. So, I mean, when they say fine, because, I saw him with a sling and take a picture with Paul Craig. So, I mean, maybe that's just precautionary, but he's not fine because if you just had a shoulder dislocation, you pop it back in. You don't need a sling. Potentially you could if it was something bad happened. But, I mean, if you just dislocate your shoulder and pop it back in or your elbow, you don't need a sling. So, I don't really know. Maybe you do. I've never dislocated my elbow. I've not really seen one happen either. So potentially. But anyway, just rambling now. Yeah, shout out to Craig. He got the win, Always live to do that to anyone. Even Magomed Ankalaev in the last minute of the fight. Christian Rodriguez. Paul Craig was a good bet. You think the line was way off. Yeah, Paul Craig was a good bet. I think a better bet was Paul Craig inside the distance. Paul Craig's not winning a decision against Jamal Hill. So I think that was a better way to play it. Like me, playing the Jamal Hill inside the distance. Jamal Hill money line, you got to look at yourself if you're betting that, in my opinion. Maybe Craig could have lasted, but in my opinion, Craig's not lasting. Like, if it's going to be on the feet for that long. And then on the Craig side, Jamal's not lasting if Craig is lasting, right? If Craig is lasting, if Craig isn't getting knocked out, then that means he's probably got the fight to the ground a couple of times. And if he has, he's probably going to stop Jamal. So I think Craig inside the distance was a better bet than Craig moneyline. But still, Craig moneyline definitely was off because guy's 8-0, right? Coming in from the Contender Series. And, these fighters, Craig's got so much experience against high-level guys. And now he's like a minus 300, his opponent's minus 300 favorite against him when he's only 8-0. Like, he hasn't really faced that much adversity. So, yeah, man, the line was off for sure. Belal Muhammad defeats Damian Maia via 3-round decision. Yeah, what am I going to say about this fight, man? Belal stuffed 20 takedowns. Yeah, seriously, he stuffed 20 takedowns. I think he stuffed 21 takedowns. Damian Maia kept going to the same takedown, single leg. It's like the only takedown he knows. He couldn't stop the single leg. The commentary were right for once in this fight, saying that he needs to go for a different takedown, not the single leg. But he didn't really listen. He kept going for the single leg, and obviously it showed. It showed because he couldn't get him down. So Damian Maia potentially should retire, but I think he's going to have one more fight and then retire. So be interesting to see who they match him up against. They should probably match him up against someone who, maybe give him Cerrone. Winner retires. Loser retires too. Welterweight Maia versus Cerrone. That would be fun, wouldn't it? Don't you think? All right. Yeah, Muhammad. Shout out to Muhammad. I mean, guys, I don't have much to say about this fight. I'm getting a little bit tired now anyway. We'll just smash out the last 3 fights and then we'll go. And then I'll go. The next fight was Leon Edwards versus Nate Diaz. You had Leon Edwards to win via decision here, plus 150. I think it was a good bet. This is another one of them things where you have to look at it in a macro scale. A lot of people watch that fight and they'll go like, oh, no, Leon was close to stopping him with the scar tissue and stuff like that. I don't know, man. Plus 150, that line was inaccurate. That line was off, in my opinion. You give me a 40% indication on Edwards to defeat Diaz by decision. I think if these guys fight 100 times, I think Edwards wins via decision a lot more than 40 times. Let me tell you that now. I think he might even win by decision 70, 75 times. Nate probably wins 10, 15 times, and Leon probably stops him about 10, 15 times. Trust me, Leon Edwards wins that fight. I should have went heavy on that. Plus 150 is ridiculous. The only way Edwards was going to stop Diaz was from a cut stoppage. You can't be banking on cut stoppages. Cut stoppages, I meant. A lot of people were on Edwards inside the distance, and I understood, right? But then also I saw a lot of people saying, Nate's scar tissue's done, like he's going to get doctor stoppage. First of all, he's got 1 doctor stoppage in his career. It was against Masvidal in his last fight. Second of all, in that fight, he shouldn't have been doctor stopped. That was a soft stoppage. It was in New York City. That was in the beginning. That wasn't long after they legalized MMA. Like a couple of years, 3-4 years, 2-3 years after they legalized MMA. And it was a bad stoppage, right? Other than that, Nate's never been stopped because of his cuts before. So why are you just assuming that he's going to get stopped via doctor this time? It's a good bonus to have, right? But you can't use it as your main thing. It's silly, right? Now, look, when he got cut open, obviously, there's always a chance to be doctor stopped. But also, most of the time, there's not a doctor stoppage. How many times do people bleed in the UFC? Most of the time, there's not doctor stoppages, right? Even if it's above the eye. even if it's, a bad cut. Like a lot of times, most of the times, they don't stop the fight. Sometimes they do, but it's a smaller percentage. Anyway, I think Leon Edwards wins this fight via decision so many times. Anyway, yeah, man. The talking point in this fight, which is very, very sad for Leon Edwards, is that Nate Diaz rocked him badly in that last round, right? He hit him hard, rocked him badly, pointed at him, was like, should have basically pressured him, in my opinion. When he pointed at him, he let him off. I had a Leon Edwards via decision ticket, and there was like 40 seconds left, and I was like, oh my God, Nate's just pointing at him. This is amazing. If Nate would have poured it on there, I think Leon would have been in bad trouble because he was hurt badly there, like really, really badly. Nate slapped him and came with the 1-2, right? The Stockton slap, and then hit him with the straight hand. It was pretty brutal because he slapped, bang. And then he pointed after like that, pointed at him, laughed. That was terrible fight IQ. He gave him a lot of time to recover. He probably didn't throw another punch for like 7 to 10 seconds, maybe more like 5 to 7 seconds after that point, which is absolutely ridiculous because you're giving the guy like 5 or 7 seconds to recover. Like, I'm telling you now that, look, we'll never know because Leon did do well to stay on the outside and clinch up when he needed to after he got hurt, but it seemed like he was badly hurt. And it seemed like if Diaz did put on the pressure straight after he rocked him, seemed like he potentially could get him out of there, man. And that's funny, right? Because Nate Diaz now, like in his head, he's like, yeah, I won this fight, man. Like I almost knocked him out. 6th round, I would have knocked him out. Like, that's what's going through his head when he got absolutely dominated for like 24 minutes and 20 seconds. It's just funny that Diaz's stock kind of rises with this, and Leon Edwards' stock probably like stays the same, even though he put on a masterclass performance up until that shot. And it's a fist fight. Anyone can get hurt. It wasn't a good look getting hurt by Diaz like that, though, because Diaz don't really punch that hard. But at the end of the day, it's a fight. And, I mean, if you get hit, straight, especially at welterweight, Diaz probably hits a bit harder. Anyone can get hurt. Shout out to both guys. Diaz is a legend, You guys got to stop betting against Diaz to get stopped, man. I mean, you got bailed out with that Masvidal fight. Let me tell you something now. If the doctors didn't stop that Masvidal fight, that fight goes to decision. Read it and weep, man. You Masvidal people are going to say, nah, he would have stopped him. Man, he only had 2 rounds left, right? They was going into the 4th round. He only had 10 minutes to survive. Masvidal was obviously getting tired, as was Diaz. They've been fighting for 15 minutes. Obviously, going to get more tired. He wasn't going to stop Diaz. Maybe, unlikely in my opinion. Don't be betting against Diaz to get stopped, man. This dude does not get stopped. He's got an iron chin, one of the toughest people we've ever seen in the sport, on par with Tony Ferguson. Better chin than Tony Ferguson, even possibly. Like, the dude is fucking tough, man. Anyway, the next fight. This is a good one because I can brag about this one. All right, let me just quickly hit up the chat. Mbaye. Leon ever been rocked like that? No, I don't think so. I don't think he's ever been rocked like that. Mbaye is saying Diaz has CTE. You can't blame him. Also, he probably was surprised that it hurt him like that. I think it's just his style, bro. Like, he just points at people when he hurts them. I mean, it's just what he does, right? Yeah, just what he does. Didn't Diaz have a good round? 2nd round, it was close, right? I don't know, man. He got dominated for every round, Yeah, he got dominated. I don't think it was close. Maybe Diaz landed a couple of shots, but I mean, Leon Edwards clearly won every single round up until getting hurt in the last 40 seconds. He would have won that round too. It would have been 50-45. Okay, Brandon Moreno versus Davison Figueiredo. So we had a bet on this. We had a bet on Brandon Moreno at plus 200. 1.5 units on him, ended up cashing 3 units for us. Complete domination by the Assassin Baby. Wins round 1 easily, takes Davison down. Wins round 2 easily. Round 3 comes, winning round 3, gets the back, chokes Davison Figueiredo out, makes Davison Figueiredo tap. Unbelievable performance by Brandon Moreno. The dude is becoming my my favorite fighter, man. Like, oh, you know, not my favorite. Max Holloway is always going to have that spot. But he is becoming one of my favorite fighters. I said this pre-fight. Deiveson Figueiredo is also one of my favorite fighters, but during this fight week, he kind of turned me off him with the embedded, with him pushing Moreno. Like, that's just his style, right? Whatever, is what it is. But he was looking a little bit unlikable because, you know, he's just saying Deiveson was saying, like, Brandon was talking loads of trash talk and that. Brandon Moreno is just, come on, guys, you know me. I don't trash talk. I'm not this guy, man. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. You know, he's just, like, so likable. You know, when he meets Izzy, that video is amazing. It's like, hey, man, I'm such a big fan, man. Like, he's a proper legend. You know what I mean? Brandon, like, I proper love Brandon. This whole fight week. And I didn't have a bet on him because of that. Obviously not. I had a bet on him because of what I saw on tape. And then for him to go out and do that, like, I was welling up, like, feeling a bit emotional when he was crying and doing his speech. And I don't get too emotional when I sit. Like, I can't remember when I've got emotional during a fight before, but that was like the first time ever. So I have to call it how I see it, man. Moreno is, he's a legend. So I'll tell you something about this bet is that, like, you know, I always talk about betting value. Yeah, I say you shouldn't bet winners. And in this fight, I didn't know who was going to win. I was calling this fight a very even fight. Like, it could go either way. I was even potentially favoring Figgy to, like, get the job done. But I had a plus 200 number on Brandon Moreno. So even though I necessarily wasn't picking Brandon Moreno to win, I still bet Brandon Moreno. And obviously, we won a lot of money from it. So do you understand now why I always talk about betting for value and not picking winners? Because people who are beginners to sports betting and don't understand doing it professionally, they always say, like, oh, what do you mean don't pick winners? What do you mean value? There's no value in a losing bet. You should just bet winners. You know, obviously, sometimes it's frustrating to see because people are quite rude when they say it and they're just unequivocally wrong, you know, just like 100% wrong. So sometimes it is a little bit frustrating if people are rude, but if people are genuinely, like, asking a question like, what are you talking about? Don't bet winners. I understand because it doesn't make sense, right? When I first started getting into professional betting, I didn't really understand about value and probability and implied win outcomes and stuff like that. But this is an easy way of kind of like understanding why, right? So Brandon Moreno was 2-1 plus 200. And even though I wasn't necessarily saying, yeah, I'm confident Brandon Moreno is going to win this fight, I think he's going to win, I still bet it because I thought it was a close fight and you're giving me odds that are not close. You understand? There's the difference there. That's value. I thought the fight was here, but the odds you're giving me are here. So I've got this much value. Okay. That's the reason I bet it. So I hope that, I mean, that's an easy way of understanding value, right? I feel like anyone could digest that, right? I feel like anyone can understand that. And what happened? We won, right? Same thing when I bet on Hannah Guy at over 4-1 against Valerie Laruda, right? I thought the fight was like even, like here, you know, Valerie's going to win on the feet, Hannah's going to win on the ground. But you're not giving me an even fight. You're not giving me plus 100. You're not giving me even money. You're giving me 4-1. So even though I'm not necessarily picking Hannah Guy to win the fight, there's 4-1. There's that much value. I'm going to bet on Hannah Guy. What happened? Hannah Guy won. Now, there'll be sometimes you do that and your fighter doesn't win. But because you're not getting even odds, you're getting 4-1, 2-1, 3-1. The times you win, you're going to get way more than the times you lose. Because when you bet, you only lose what you bet. But when you win a bet, you win whatever the odds give you. So if you're betting on higher odds, then you're going to win more. That's professional sports betting. That's what betting on value means. That's what betting on inaccurate markets mean. So I hope you understand that because, you know, I'm always getting questions and people saying like, what are you talking about? Value, just pick winners and stuff. So, you know, that kind of explains it in a concrete way, right? It's a concrete example of specifically what I did. I bet on Brandon Moreno because of the odds and we cashed there. I'd like to see Deiveson move up, but I mean, you know, that's his first time. That's the second time he's lost in his career, and he's fought at, you know, flyweight his whole time. So I mean, one loss and then you move up, not really. But I do think he's always missing weight. He misses weight a lot. He looks terrible on the scales a lot, potentially it's time for him to move up now, right? Anyway, next fight we have Israel Adesanya versus Marvin Vettori. Yeah, I'm not going to go too much into this. So this is funny because I was predicting Israel Adesanya to win, but I bet on Marvin Vettori via decision because it was plus 400, because it was 4-1. I thought Marvin's path to victory was decision. I thought he could take Adesanya down a couple of times and potentially squeak out 3 rounds. But I was actually predicting Israel Adesanya to win. So I only put half a unit on it. Absolutely nothing bet, flyer bet. We ended up winning over 8 units on the night, and I only put half of a unit on this. So that's kind of the disparity on what we won and what this bet was. But that's another way. That's another explanation of why I don't always bet on who's going to win, right? This time it lost, right? But I only lost what I bet on this one, half a unit, right? But against Brandon Moreno, I won 3 units because the odds were so high. So even though I lost on this one and I won on Brandon Moreno, that's I won 1 and I lost 1. But I won way more than when I lost because of the odds, because of the value. So I hope you understand even more now what I meant. But yeah, Adesanya just complete domination. He won 5 rounds to 0. I think Chael Sonnen was like, it wasn't 5 rounds. I don't really understand. Yeah, man, shout out to Israel. I like Israel a lot. I've met Israel. He's a good guy, as you can see there. Can you see that? Can you see that? This is Israel Adesanya. Shout out to Izzy. So, yeah, I like Izzy, man. He's a good fighter. He's actually one of my favorite fighters to watch, as in style-wise. He's very clinical, city kickboxing fighter, very high-level kickboxer, solid fighter. So, shout out to Izzy. Yeah, man, that's it. I'm going to sign off now because getting a bit tired. Been talking for over an hour, but I appreciate everyone listening here. Let's just catch up with the chat quickly. If you want to say anything in the chat before I go, hit me up. Mbaye is saying he bet Paul Craig by submission. Yeah, that's mad. That definitely should have been a submission. He bet Moreno by submission. Well done. Because of how Figgy looked on the scales. Oh, okay. But wasn't it suspect that he was so happy for Moreno? But what does that mean? Suspect. So, okay, let's say it was suspect. Like, what are you implying, right? Because suspect means you're implying something. Are you implying that it was fixed? Like, what are you implying? What does suspect mean? Mbaye is saying Moreno was talking a little shit after their first fight. Was he? I don't know. He wasn't saying that much. I know he was saying. I know he was saying that, like, what was he saying in the embedded? Oh, I can't remember. But it's a fight, right? Figgy was talking a lot of shit. That guy didn't stop talking shit. Mackenzie's saying, you will be where you want to be. I need to go on your website. Yeah, all the links are in the description, man. You can see my results. My website, all of that. I'm third-party tracked, so I cannot fake my record, as you know. Anyone who wants to sign up, as I said, hit the links in my bio. LucrativeMMABetting.com. Come and make money watching MMA with me. Team Lucrative. Let's go. That's it. I'm already taping next week's fights. Got a couple bets penciled in. I'm going to release them later today. If you sign up on the website, you get instant access to them. So that's it, man. I appreciate everyone for being here. Hit the like on the video if you've made it this far. Definitely give me a thumbs up. I heard it helps with the algorithm, so might as well give it a go, see how far we can go. Thanks a lot, guys, and I'll be back next week.